Hello, everybody, and welcome to the gym today. It's me, Rahul, again, and today we're going to do a budget deck for Expanded. I know I've done a couple for Standard so far, and because that's the format I've been mostly focusing on, with Orlando Regionals being the big thing, but with Philadelphia Regionals coming up in the following weekend, I decided that let's take a look at a budget deck. Now, this deck is not my own. This is a list that was sent to me by a really, really good friend, Fred Hoban, who you might know for getting top 8 at Nationals with Vespa Queen Vileplume, and then top 32 at Worlds as well with Vespa Queen Vileplume, I believe. Great guy, great player. He took this to an LC the other day and managed to come out on top. It's a super budget version of Trevenant Wob. Now you might be thinking those two cards don't really go well together. Why not just play? I mean, sorry, Trevenant Accelgor. You might just think Accelgor Wob if it's just a better deck. But for Accelgor Wobbuffet, you need a lot of beaches and cards of that nature. But this variant is just super standard, super budget, no VS Seekers, nothing. Just cut bare bones dry supporters. I think the most expensive card in this deck is the Computer Search at the end of the day. So let's dig into the deck. So you've got a 4-4 Accelgor line. Accelgor being your meat and bones attacker. It does for double colors. Deck can cover 50. The opposing Pokemon is paralyzed and poisoned, and it goes back into your deck. Now, paralyzed and poisoned is a very hard status condition combination to get rid of, which paralyzation is really difficult to get rid of unless you have like a Pokemon Center Lady, Escape Rope, Switch, just switching cards. And without switching cards, the only two supporters that really are three supporters that really get you out of that situation is Olympia, AZ, and Pokemon Center Lady. So most decks that play the Wobbuffet version are just trying to play the game of attrition, get your opponent to use all of his resources, and then just keep decking covering until you win the game. But this variation plays the card that a lot of people dislike, Trevenant, that has the item lock ability, the Forest's Curse item lock ability. So what you're doing is you're bouncing into your Trevenant, and then you're saying, hey, you have to have one of these three supporters to get out of it, and even if you get out of it, you have to knock out my Trevenant so you can use your VS Seekers again. And if you can't do that, I'm just going to keep walling with my Trevenant, and you're going to be locked forever. Now, the deck functions very similarly to Trevenant, where you can just pretty much set up a Trevenant and sit behind it and set up your field, because under Trainer Lock, a lot of times your opponent can't do much. You play one Wobbuffet just because it's a really good opener to have to stop a lot of abilities like Shaman's, Jirachi EXs, just things that are kind of annoying to deal with, in my opinion. Past that, you might be thinking, how do you have the late game draw? What happens if you get end to like 2? How do you set up another Accelgor? Well, for that, you've got our good friend Octillery. Octillery has Abyssal Hand that lets you keep drawing once per turn up till you have 5 cards in your hand. So pretty much the strategy is to set up an Accelgor, attack with it, it goes into your deck, you're at like a 2-3 card hand, your opponent's like, there's no way he has an Accelgor again. Then you Abyssal Hand for 3 more cards, usually set up another Accelgor or find some of the pieces, and then play a supporter for the turn. And so you keep setting up and keep going, and you never run out of gas. Your foot's always on the pedal, you're just pushing, pushing, pushing. And so your opponent has to have ability lock to get rid of your Trevenant, he has to deal with, you're getting item locked, you're drawing cards while you're item locking your opponent, and your status condition locking them. So this deck is the ultimate budget lock deck, and it's super fun, super cool. Computer Search is just a super good ace spec to have. Expanded, you need an ace spec, and that's unfortunate, but this is a budget deck. But ace specs are crucial to an expanded deck. You always play one, and Computer Search is the best one, so why not? You play 4 level balls because you have Shelmets, Accelgors, Phantoms, Remoraid's, and Octilleries that are all searchable by level ball. So that's a huge part of your engine. That's a really strong part of getting the Accelgor pieces going later in the game as well, even in the early game. So level ball is probably one of your best search cards in this deck, and I love it. It's a great card. The only two Pokemon you can't get with level ball are Trevenant and Wobbuffet, and so it's like whatever. You can get those guys later. There's 4 Ultra Ball because sometimes you have pieces or cards just clunking up your hand that you don't really need. So putting them in the discard is fantastic, like late game Bridgets or late game Silent Labs, just cards you won't need later in the future in the game. Just getting them into the discard, getting them out of your deck is crucial, and searching for more Pokemon is always good. Having that extra 4 search cards is crucial to just like getting another piece of the getting Accelgor or getting the Trevenant on turn 2, making sure you have it, or getting the Octillery. Now to follow that up, we have no, not Ultra Ball. We already have that. We have 4 copies of Bridget. Bridget lets you search your deck for 1 basic Pokemon EX or 3 basic Pokemon and put them on your bench. Now opening Bridget is just literally the best starting supporter you can have, because you just go whatever Pokemon you open, Bridget gets Shelmet, uh, Phantump, or like Shelmet, Phantump, Remoraid, and you're sitting there like, hey, unless you can do something, turn 2, I'm gonna Sycamore, I'm gonna Ultra Ball, I'm gonna Level Ball, I'm gonna dig through my deck, get all my things that I need, and set up and pop off on you turn 2. There's 3 Colress, because you usually will have a full bench of 5, and your opponent's always gonna have probably 1 or 2 things on his bench, so you're always drawing up to 7 cards without discarding your own resources, which is super crucial with this deck. There's a lot of cards you don't want to discard, like your DCEs, your Floatstones, your Accelgor pieces a lot of the time. Um, just small cards you don't want to toss. Yeah, it's just better to have a cards back in your deck a lot of the time. And with Colress, you have the potential to drop to like 10 cards. I mean, that's nuts. So yeah, you play a carrot in case you do have to discard some of your earlier pieces early in the game, and it helps you deal with Vespiquen, Flareon, and Nightmarch very well, because when they have all that clunk Pokemon in their deck, now they have Pokemon they can't use, and they have items they can't use. So they're sitting there and they're going, well, we can't do anything because one of this deck's biggest weaknesses is decks that can outspeed you, like Nightmarch. But with Karen coming out, it solves a huge factor, and by you just Karen them, and then you say, hey, I've item locked you as well. So you have the benefit of Trev against Nightmarch, and then you keep knocking them out, and with one deck in cover every single time. Now, a notable inclusion or exclusion from this list is a Mew EX that a lot of decks play, but again, this is a budget deck, so Mew doesn't really find a place in this. But you could always play Mew EX to preserve resources, like your whole Wob line or Accelgor line. Sorry, I don't know why I keep saying Wob. There's 2 Lysander. Um, Again, no VS Seekers is the concept of this deck. So you're pulling up things, you're Lysandering things like the Keldeo that could be a really big problem if your opponent gets a Keldeo Floatstone down before you can get your Trevenant out. So you Lysander that up, hit it, knockout, and then they have no way to rush in, retreat, and keep attacking you, because that's a huge problem in Expanded, and you have to deal with that almost accordingly instantly. There's 4N, because again, your opponent's probably going to get off to an early start lead against you, probably take 1 or 2 prizes, maybe even 3 to 4 before you can really set up and start getting your lock going, because this is a relatively slow deck. So in that process, you want to keep ending your opponent, not discarding your own resources and setting up your field, while you're giving them less and less cards every turn to work with. And then once you're set up, you just kind of roll them, and you can end them to like 2 and be like, hey, your item blocked. You can't do anything. There's 4 Professor Sycamore. Ah, sorry about that, guys. I'm just yawning for some reason. As soon as I started this video, I'm not even tired. There's 4 Sycamore. Again, you want to get the turn 1 Bridget, turn 2 Sycamore. Just draw through cards, get your deck set up. Again, you just want to establish the lock, and once your lock is established, you can slowly chip away at them until you win the game. With your ends, your Colossus, whatever, you're just getting the lock established is the biggest thing in the first 2 to 3 turns. This deck can just straight up crumble in the first 2 to 3 turns, so that's the most crucial part of it. Then you have 4 Silent Lab. Silent Lab gets you around Virizion, Shaman, stops Virizion EX, stops Shaman, stops Jirachi EX, stops Darkrai EX, stops Keldeo as well. So you're limiting a lot of the abilities that can hurt you throughout the game by setting up a Silent Lab. And a lot of decks in Expanded don't play counter stadiums. And if you can get your lab out, or even if they put a lab out, like who cares? You're just going to discard the rest of your labs. You just kind of set up, you start hitting them, and they don't have a way to get out of it with Keldeo or Virizion EX's Verdant Wind. And that's really good. There's 4 Floatstones just because everything in this deck's super fat, except for the Accelgor, and you want to get it out of the active spot as quick as possible. There's just Pokemon you don't want sitting there, and like you want to have that Trevenant active, but you're never going to attack with Trevenant because you don't play any Psychic Energy, so you want to Floatstone, pull it out of the active spot constantly and consistently. So having the 4 Floatstones means you'll always have a Floatstone where you need it, because there's 4, 5, 7 potential targets with Floatstone that you need to be on. And then you have 4 double colorless, because that's literally the only energy you need to attack with, because all Accelgor needs is a deck and cover double colorless. And the best part is, it goes back into your deck, so your opponent can't like enhance him or zero sick or whatever. So you're just putting the energy back into your deck, and now it's an additional piece that you need to dig for. But if you hit the lock and you establish it, at some point your deck is just going to be pieces of the Accelgor, and so you're just going to keep drawing into pieces and setting up, and you'll have like two Shamit on bench, like two Accelgor. One goes in, one's sitting there, so you set up the second Shamit, you get the energy of the other one, you put it in, and then etc. etc. You keep the cycle going. Um, I really like this budget deck. The non-budget version plays Tropical Beaches, plays heavier Wobbuffet lines, plays Musharna, plays Mew EX. You can find the non-budget version on the Bubbles YouTube channel. You can find it on Pokemon.com, Ross Cawthon's list from I think Madison, Wisconsin, this past year. This budget version is super cool, and I think it's a super good deck. The only problem it has in expanded or in a best of three format is your time constraint. Because if you lose a game one, um, winning a second game will just take you to a time most of the time because unless your Trevenant sticks and your opponent just kind of concedes right then and there or bricks on it, you will have to play a very long game to pretty much win a game because you're doing chip damage and not really one-shotting anything, which is the downside of this deck as opposed to things like Evital EX that just blows through your opponent. That being said, thank you guys for watching this budget deck. Leave below some other decks you'd like me to talk about. Philadelphia's in a week, so I don't really know what you guys want to see, so let me know what you want to see. I'll do like a QA video later. I'll set it up where you guys can just ask me questions and I'll just answer everything like an AMA type of thing. Um, Other than that, thank you guys so much for watching. Please be sure to like the video. Please be sure to subscribe. Likes help me a lot, by the way, so please be able to do that. And support me. Thank you for supporting us through our endeavors. And once again, thank you so much. See you in the next deck profile.